Hey there, friends. Have you ever walked into a room and completely forgotten why you're there? Or maybe you're trying to pick between two brands at the store and it feels like your brain's stuck in molasses, slow, foggy, and just not cooperating. If you're over 60 like me, you might have noticed those moments creeping in more often, and it's enough to make you wonder, is this just how it's going to be now? I've been there, standing in my kitchen, staring at the fridge, wondering what I meant to grab, and feeling a little frustrated. It's not about big things going wrong. It's those little slips that slow you down and make your days harder than they need to be. That's what we're tackling today, those sneaky thinking slips that can cloud your mind after 60, and how to clear them out so you can feel sharp and in control again. Mental sharpness isn't just about keeping up with the grandkids' chatter or remembering where you parked. It's about enjoying your days with confidence, making decisions without second guessing, and feeling like your brain's still got your back. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 5 common habits that might be dragging you down and some easy fixes to lift that fog. So grab a comfy spot and let's get started. Let's kick things off with something we've all done at some point: skipping breakfast. I used to think, oh, I'll just have coffee and get going. Saves time, right? But here's the catch. Your brain needs fuel to fire up, especially in the morning. After a night of sleep, it's running on empty, and skipping that first meal is like asking it to run a race with no gas in the tank. I'd find myself fumbling for words by 10 a.m., or feeling like my thoughts were wading through mud. Turns out, a little food in the morning can wake your mind up and keep it humming. So, I started making it simple. No big gourmet spread, just something quick like oatmeal with a handful of berries or a piece of toast with peanut butter. It's not about a feast, it's about giving your brain a boost. My friend Sally, who's 64, used to skip breakfast too. She'd rush out to her garden, then wonder why she couldn't focus. She started grabbing a banana and a yogurt, and she swears she's sharper for it. You don't need to overhaul your morning. Just toss something easy on your plate and watch how it clears that early haze. It's like flipping the on switch for your day. Now, while we're talking about keeping our minds running smooth, let's think about how we lean on routines. I get it. After 60, there's comfort in doing things the same way. Same coffee mug, same route to the store, same TV show at 7 p.m. It's cozy, like an old sweater. But here's where it trips us up. Sticking too hard to those patterns can put your brain on autopilot, and it stops stretching, stops growing. I noticed this when I'd drive the same loop every day. Pretty soon, I couldn't recall if I'd locked the door because it was all a blur. So I started shaking it up a bit. Not big changes, just little twists. Maybe I'd take a different street home or switch the radio to a new station. One day, I even tried a word game on my phone instead of my usual crossword. Nothing fancy, just a 5-minute scramble. My neighbor Tom, who's 67, got into this too. He'd always eat dinner at 6 sharp, but he started mixing up the menu or timing, and he says it's like his brain woke up from a nap. It's not about throwing out what you love, it's about nudging your mind to stay nimble. Try swapping one routine this week, maybe brew tea instead of coffee, and see how it perks things up. And since we're on this roll of keeping our brains lively, let's talk about something that can really slow us down: dodging new challenges. I used to shy away from anything unfamiliar, thinking, I've done enough learning, let me coast. Like when my granddaughter showed me her tablet, I'd wave it off. Too tricky, too new. But that avoidance, it's like letting your brain gather dust. New stuff, whether it's a gadget, a recipe, or even a dance step, keeps those gears turning and your focus sharp. I finally said yes to that tablet. Started with a simple game, and yeah, I fumbled at first, but soon I was hooked. It wasn't just fun, it made me feel quicker, like I could tackle anything. My cousin Ed, who's 62, picked up a birdwatching book after years of saying nah. Now he's spotting sparrows and remembering their names like a pro. You don't need to climb mountains, just try one small new thing, maybe a puzzle or a craft, and watch how it lights up your thinking. So, with breakfast fueling us, routines getting a shake, and challenges waking us up, we're clearing that fog fast. Let's keep it rolling and see what's next. So we've been chatting about how skipping breakfast, sticking too tight to routines, and dodging new challenges can sneakily slow down our thinking after 60, and how little tweaks like a quick bite, a change of pace, or trying something fresh can lift that fog right off. It's like giving your brain a friendly nudge to keep up with you, not lag behind. And after all the years we've put in, we deserve to feel sharp and clear, whether we're sorting the bills or laughing with friends. Let's keep this going and dig into a couple more slips that might be tripping us up. Now let's talk about something that's easy to brush off until it catches up with you: sleep debt. I used to think, oh, I'll catch up on sleep later, staying up for one more show or tossing over some worry until the wee hours. But here's the thing: when you shortchange your sleep, your brain pays the price. It's like trying to run a car on fumes. Everything gets sluggish, from remembering where you parked to deciding what's for dinner. I'd wake up after a skimpy night and my head felt like it was wrapped in cotton, couldn't string two thoughts together without a fight. So I started treating sleep like a priority, not a maybe, aiming for 7 or 8 hours, not just the 5 I'd scrape by on. It's not about being perfect, it's about giving your mind a chance to reset. I set a little wind-down routine, lights low, a book instead of the TV, and it's like my brain knows it's time to clock out. My friend Pat, who's 66, used to burn the midnight oil too, but she shifted to an earlier bedtime with a cup of tea, and she says her mornings are crisper now. She's not fumbling for words anymore. You don't need to overhaul your life. Just nudge your bedtime up a bit or cut the late-night scroll, and watch how your focus snaps back. And while we're talking about keeping our minds clear, let's think about what happens when stress piles up. I get it. Life after 60 isn't all smooth sailing. Maybe it's a health scare, family stuff, or just the world feeling heavy. But when stress sits there, unchecked, it's like static on the radio. Your thoughts get fuzzy, and decisions feel harder than they should. I'd find myself stewing over a leaky faucet or a grandkid's troubles, and pretty soon I couldn't even pick a soup for lunch without overthinking it. That's when I realized stress wasn't just a mood, it was clogging my brain. So I started letting it out with something simple, meditation, but nothing fancy. Just sitting quiet for 5 minutes, breathing slow, letting my mind settle. At first I'd fidget, but soon it was like sweeping the clutter away. My neighbor Clara, who's 69, tried this too. She'd stress about her son's job, so she started doing word games instead, unscrambling letters to unwind. She says it's like her brain gets a breather, and she's sharper for it. You don't need to be a Zen master. Try a deep breath or a puzzle when you're wound up. It's like hitting reset on the noise, and your thinking clears right up. Both of these, paying off that sleep debt and shaking off stress, tie right into what we've been building. A good breakfast fuels you up, mixing up routines keeps you nimble, and tackling new challenges sparks your mind. Now you're resting deep and calming the storm, setting your brain up to run smooth and steady. I've noticed it myself. When I sleep solid and keep stress in check, I'm not just getting by, I'm on top of things, whether it's planning a day out or remembering where I stashed the spare keys. My cousin Mary, who's 63, told me she used to feel scattered all the time, but a better night's sleep and a few minutes of quiet have her buzzing through her crosswords like old times. It's funny how these little slips, like skipping sleep or letting stress simmer, can creep in so quiet, but once you spot them, you've got the power to push them out. My friend Don, who's 70, laughed when he caught himself napping all wrong. Too late, too long. But after fixing that and doodling to unwind, he's back to beating me at cards. That's what we're after, clearing the fog so we can think fast and feel good. Let's keep this rolling and see how it all comes together to keep us sharp as ever. So we've been having this great chat about those sneaky thinking slips that can slow us down after 60. Skipping breakfast, over-relying on routines, avoiding new challenges, racking up sleep debt, and letting stress pile up. And with every little fix, like a quick bite to start the day, a shake-up to your habits, a new puzzle to try, a solid night's rest, and a moment to unwind, we're clearing that fog and getting our sharpness back. It's all about keeping our minds humming so we can enjoy these years, not just muddle through them. Let's wrap this up with some final thoughts to keep you feeling quick and confident. One thing I've noticed is how these fixes don't just patch up the moment. They start sticking with you. That sleep debt I used to ignore, now I guard my nights like a treasure, and it's like my brain's thanking me every morning. I'm not groping for words or forgetting why I opened the cupboard. My friend Linda, who's 65, says the same. She used to stay up fretting about her grandkids, but after prioritizing sleep and swapping her late coffee for a word game, she's breezing through her days with a clearer head. It's not about turning back the clock. It's about keeping the gears oiled so they don't grind to a halt. And speaking of feeling good, let's think about what happens when stress isn't gumming up the works. Those days where I'd stew over something small, like a mix-up with the pharmacy, and lose half my focus, they're fading. That little meditation trick, sitting still, breathing easy, has been a lifesaver. I'll settle in my chair, let the worries float by, and suddenly I'm deciding dinner without a fuss. My neighbor Bill, who's 68, picked up on this too. He'd stress about his roof repairs, but now he doodles or takes a slow walk, and he's back to beating his brother at chess. It's like clearing the static so your thoughts can tune in sharp and clear. What's really hitting home is how simple this can be. You don't need to reinvent yourself. Just nudge away those slips one by one. Maybe you grab a piece of fruit tomorrow morning instead of rushing out, or try a new route to the mailbox. I started small, swapped my autopilot evenings for a Sudoku puzzle, and now I'm tackling crosswords I'd have skipped a year ago. My cousin Ruth, who's 72, used to think her foggy days were set in stone, but a decent breakfast and a bit of breathing have her planning her garden with a grin. It's these little wins that stack up. Your focus tightens, decisions feel easier, and you're not second-guessing every move. So, here we are with 5 slips off the table, fueling up with breakfast, mixing up the routine, embracing a challenge, sleeping deep, and calming the stress. They're like a crew working together to keep your mind bright and ready. I think of my Uncle Joe, who's 70. He'd grumble about forgetting names, but after eating in the morning and unwinding with a game, he's calling everyone right and laughing about it. That's what we're after. Sharpness that lets us live our days fully, whether it's sorting a problem or just enjoying a quiet coffee. What do you think? Any of these slips sound familiar? Have you caught yourself in one and turned it around? Or maybe got a trick of your own that keeps you clear? I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Your stories always spark something new for me. And if this clicked for you, give the video a little like. It's a sweet way to say we're on this ride together. Oh, and if you want more ways to stay sharp, hit that subscribe button. I've got plenty more to share. Here's to clearing the fog and keeping our minds quick, my friends. You're sharper than you know.